Shooters Connection offers products for competition shooters by competition shooters. With over 80 years of combined competition shooting experience, Shooters Connection is staffed by master and grandmaster shooters who live the shooting sports every day. We offer same-day shipping. Shooters Connection also sponsors over 100 of your matches every single year. So when it comes to finding everything you need to compete as a beginner or a seasoned grandmaster, Shooters Connection is the only name you need to know. Online at shootersconnectionstore.com.
All right, welcome back to the Hit Factor.
Okay, it's going.
Jeff's talking over me, but that's fine.
Oh, that would be a nice intro.
So we need to give like some disclaimers. My internet at about 10 minutes ago was reading at 110 kilobytes per second. So maybe you guys will hear this, maybe you won't. We're going to pray that my internet will stay fast. But this is the Hit Factor. We have the whole crew on tonight. Myself, Jeremy Reid, Jeff Cawthon, and Jared the Sasquatch Fox is on. All our GMs in some sort of division or category. But maybe those are legacy GMs for some of us. Maybe we should be bumped down. I don't know. Yeah, like I feel like we need to get everybody qualified.
Thanks for qualifying us.
We have missed a couple recordings, but this show, as you guys heard, is sponsored by Shooters Connection. So see the link at the bottom of wherever you're listening to this at, and follow that if you need to buy anything shooting related. They got it. They had an EGW part, ambi safety that I needed for a gun, and I just ordered that this last week. So they've been great to be able to just go find stuff that you need, and they usually have it. Again, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube if you're on there. That does help us if you do. If we can get some interaction. The Discord links should be live now, and you can join the Discord, and there's some good conversations going on there. And so tonight we are, we have to talk about one thing that really none of us really want to talk about, but it's what is going on in the world of USPSA right now, and that is Nationals has changed venue mid-year. It was in Cameo, supposed to be, it was going to be limited, open, production, and PCC were supposed to be in Cameo, Colorado, October like 14th through the 17th or something like that, around that time. And with some drama that has happened, they have been moved to Talladega, Alabama. And they've been split up to where it's now open and limited one weekend, and then the following weekend is production and PCC paired together. It's honestly, to me, like, it's just a huge bummer. Like it just, like, it sucks, like changing venue middle of the year. Like, I know Jared had like just booked like Airbnb, I'm pretty sure. And so like now it's like, okay, can I get out of that? You got to try to find something else if he's going to the next one. And I know for me, like, I had a trip. I was going mule deer hunting right after that match. And now that match is 15 hours the wrong direction. And so for me, it means I can't shoot nationals. Like I can't bail on the mule deer hunt. So it's kind of put my season just in a weird place, because now, like, without nationals, I have Area 3 on my schedule, and that's it for the year. And so it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird not having a nationals to be preparing for. If that's what you're trying to get ready for. So then you're just kind of shooting just to shoot. I mean, like, so that, like, that's kind of,
you can always come with your pre-state.
You know, do I fill it in with some other matches that I like? Honestly, I care less about. Like that's not a knock on any match. It's just, it's not a nationals. So I'm a little bit just in limbo as far as what the rest of my season is going to look like. Obviously, last year I cut my season short, kind of on purpose, and so then this year it feels like it's getting cut short again, not really on purpose, not really anything I can do about it. So that just like that part of it sucks.
Yeah.
I know Jeff's a little bit in limbo as far as does he want to go shoot a match that's built around PCC and production at the same time, which sounds like it's like the worst pairing in the world. Like to put, yeah, like that's pretty bad.
That's
Their
my
justification
concern.
for doing that was that they looked at the entries for the match when all the divisions were together, and that gave the most even split for entries to split it to put limited and open together in production and PCC, so that like the competitors number, like I guess if they had done production limited, maybe the numbers would have been skewed one direction or the other. I don't know. I didn't look what that is.
So okay, so they took like the most irrelevant factor.
I mean, like
and they used that to determine how to split the matchup. Like the most irrelevant from a competition standpoint, they took that and that's what they used.
Yeah, if they could have gotten it, as long as they could get everyone in the match that was already registered, I think the optics should have stayed together and the iron should have stayed together. I think you'll have a better match that way. It's just like, I think of what a rifle is in this game, and I'm just like, those stages are going to either get built to challenge the rifle or to challenge the pistol. And it would be really easy for those stages to just
I mean, like the most natural pairing from like anybody's perspective would be open and PCC. Like those are open is the division that can most easily compete, not easily, but can most compete with PCC. Like if you put something that challenges PCC, open is the most like the division that can have a chance of being able to do the same thing. And but you paired PCC with production gun, like the hardest gun to build stages that are entertaining for both divisions. Because that's where we're at. Like those two divisions are so drastically far apart that building stages that are interesting for both at the same time, like you can't do it. And so I think that's put Jeff in a you don't
impossible.
Really want to go.
And it's either going to suck for both divisions, or it's going to suck for one of them real bad. Like, and I know like lower level PCC shooters probably won't care. They won't care if it's a hoser match for them, but guys who are there to compete like for real with PCC and like try to win a nationals, like they're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it if it's a decent match for production. So
I think you mentioned it too, well right there though, is that it'll be really easy for that match to suck for both. Like half of the stages be like reasonable production stages, what you would expect for iron sights with a pistol, and then the other half to end up being like actual challenging stages for a rifle, which could easily be just excessive for a pistol.
Yeah, if it's a challenging stage for a rifle, it'll be damn near impossible.
Well, you take
with a production gun.
As an example, like a 20-yard headshot, right, with a no shoot on it, like that is no big deal with a rifle. That is I hope I don't fuck up target with a pistol.
Yep.
Like
and then the other thing that's the big challenge with it being in Talladega, like we know that range has 15 bays. Every year that I've been to a Nationals there, the center bay is used for vendors. So you're talking about it's a 3-day match, and that will be held on 14 bays. So you're visiting, averaging less than 5 bays a day for your nationals. So that's not all that appealing either.
Yeah. You bring up something good though too, mentioning like the vendor space. So like on the CZ side of things, like I'm probably not going to have a booth at both matches because having 4 or 5 guys tied up for 12 days is just too much. It's too much time out of the office, too much time traveling. So I'm sure there'll be other vendors that were looking forward to be able to display, and then it really throws a wrench in there when you basically
and
triple the size or
USPSA
the amount of
was,
time
I mean, like
required.
they, well, I mean, like they had to move the match. Now, I mean, like there are people that are gonna have different opinions from me on all of why they had to move the match, and they'll put blank and say they never should have had it in Colorado in the first place, and all of that nonsense. And we don't necessarily have to go into it, but at the same time, like them moving the match in June, like finding a facility that's just even willing to host the nationals, you're kind of screwed at that point. To me, this is not really the first time that USPSA has been in a scramble situation to find a place to host a nationals. And this is probably the worst time, given that their financials came out that they were in a pretty big deficit last year. But like at some point, like if there are no ranges, it sounds like now we have lost Colorado, the Cameo range. That is no longer an option to host USPSA nationals. And in my opinion, Talladega is not an appropriate range for nationals. Like with only 15 bays, that is not appropriate. That is not big enough for a nationals. Like they're really nice facilities.
The facilities are not there.
It's just not big enough. And so like if that's where we're at, then at some point, this opens up a huge can of worms. At some point, USPSA almost has to consider like, hey, is there some land in the middle of the country somewhere that's fairly cheap that we can put bays up on, to where we could host our own nationals, and then we're not at the whim of anybody, whether it's the government or ranges timing or anything like that. That gets into a really deep, long conversation that I know you guys don't want to get into tonight. I don't really want to get into it tonight, but like at some point, it's like we almost have to start looking in that direction, in my opinion.
I think it would be reasonable to start looking into that at least at some point.
I mean, it's been discussed several
I'm
times
kind of
in the past.
surprised they haven't already, because you would have a lot of control over exactly what your facilities were, as well as not being limited on like how early setup can start on stuff. You'd probably if you did it right, you could probably turn a profit,
possibly
a nice outdoor range in a good area.
I mean, if you
at least a break even compared to paying.
Yeah, and I don't know what they pay
matches.
the facility, sure like what they're paying Talladega CMP, like to host. Like, what are their fees to host nationals there? I know that like Cameo was a huge, like they really wanted to have nationals there for a couple of reasons. Like one, it is the best facility that I know of in the country. I don't know of a facility that comes close to that. But it also was very cheap. It was basically like a per user fee, which was like $20 or something like that. Like, I mean, like, don't quote me on the exact specifics of that, but it was not a really high fee. And so like you got a world-class facility and it didn't cost USPSA a lot of money. So like that was the huge draw to try to have it there. And so I wish it was still there. Like I'm sad about how things have turned out with that, because there won't be any more major matches at Cameo in the future unless something changes. And that's a bummer because of what a nice facility it is.
Yeah, it is really nice.
Yeah, I was certainly looking forward to going out there. I mean, I hate that it moved. I understand why it moved, but it is.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of responsible parties.
The one thing that I want to that I kind of want to clear up is like, why did they have to move? USPSA did not move nationals because they were made aware of the MAG restrictions. That wasn't why they had to move nationals. They moved nationals because the facility because of some publicity that was brought about, and whoever gets the blame for that, people can argue and figure that out for themselves. But the facility came to USPSA saying that any competitor that comes here has to sign an affidavit saying that all of their equipment is within compliance. And USPSA, I think USPSA was right at that point to say, okay, no, you guys changed the deal on us a bit here. We will not force our membership to sign these affidavits. Like, we won't host a match where they have to sign some sort of affidavit like this. And so because of that, we are going to move our match. And so like you can be pissed at USPSA as much as you want, and you can blame Troy or Jake. Probably not Troy's not getting much blame, but Jake and the BOD, whoever you want to blame. Once they were forced that the members were going to have to sign that affidavit, they had no choice but to move that match. And everybody else that's mad about it, like that they had a match there, like nobody was complaining about all the matches that have happened in Colorado since 2013, like the Rocky Mountain 300 that Jared was just at a couple weeks ago. I promise you, 60-round stages, there are people using more than 15-round mags there. The Bighorn match where Infinity had their entire team there, sponsoring their whole team there, like that. Nothing changed since then. All the other major matches that have happened in Colorado since in the last 9 years, nobody was making a big ruckus about it until somebody did.
Hey, I'll have you know,
that's good.
My production mags actually only hold 15 now.
So, do you guys have any more on that? Like, there's lots that we could discuss, but there's so much not solid information out there that I don't know that we need to discuss that much more.
Yeah, that's why I'm avoiding talking on it too much. Like, obviously, I've got my own thoughts and disappointments and various things about it, but I don't know what's what yet, so I'd rather not spread speculation or what might be true. I mean, it's probably like most things. Both sides are saying one story, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
I mean, I don't doubt that a lot of things were handled poorly there, and I mean, it sucks that it has to move, but like, I probably wouldn't even be upset. Like, I'm not particularly tied to any range or anything like that, but like, I'm most pissed that they ruined like the production pairing. I know that's something little to get hung up on, but it pisses me off, and I probably won't go to nationals because of it.
It's not even just the production pairing though. Like, we were sold this great facility with, it was going to have like 24 stops, I think, like over 4 days. And then we get basically an area match. So, I mean, that is a disappointment. I really thought this year, like, nationals was going to be the big grand thing.
Yeah, that really is the big shame. Because I think the match in Cameo would have been a really good match. I think it would have been pretty awesome. And that's a bummer. I am overall just bummed with the sport right now, just because just the lack of leadership, like in the position that the sport is in, like it is a huge bummer. There's like this huge, I don't know, cloud, whatever you want to call it, over the sport. I'm somewhat sick of some of the people that are just like have absolutely nothing positive to ever add to the conversation like that. Like, I'm kind of sick of those guys. But I'm also sick of bad leadership too. Like I'm sick of that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, all I can say and hope is that people will stay in it, hopefully for the long haul, and hopefully this is a rough patch that we get past. Like, that's all I can, and I'm just trying to hope and try and stay positive for that as much as possible.
Yeah, you said some good things there. Like, the drama has gotten very old. Like, the internet can get a little tiresome to read. And at the same time, we've both been around long enough. Like, we know plenty of it is well earned.
Yeah.
But it still gets old every day.
Yep.
So on some level, I just want to shoot matches.
And I think that can still happen. Like, obviously, like,
on the bright side, though,
it is influencing some of the matches. There has been the matches have been influenced, but for the most part, like, you can go shoot your locals and still have fun doing what you've always done. You can go to your area matches, your other level 2s, and still have fun shooting matches.
Yeah, and that is the bright side. Wherever you fall on it, a lot of the board drama does not filter down too heavily to your locals or your state
with
matches.
That being said, I have some positives. I did not attend the Kentucky state match this year. That Leif Kunkel of GX Holsters, he was the match director for that, and like he put a bunch of videos out there, like how he's like sets up the matches and stuff. Like, I hope that he gets the recognition he does, because like he is going to steps to make sure that his matches, like from the stage design to the stage setup, like he's taking steps to make sure that his matches are done really well. To even post production, like he had people send him videos and he edited like a video of it that was like kind of like a hype video for the match, and it was awesome. It was like, I want to shoot this match next year because like that looks great. He's also in the middle of bourbon country, so why not go shoot a match there? So like, do what?
I think I'll add that one next year.
Yeah, it's probably going to be on my schedule if at all possible for next year. It's a bit of a drive. I guess it's a ways to get out there, but I definitely want to try to shoot it. So like, Leif looks like he's doing just a bang up knockout job. So like I want to try to put as much like positive spotlight on people like that in the sport. Also, we got to give a shout out to the Cornhusker Classic happened here this last weekend. And I don't know if he's the Hit Factor's #1 fan, but he might be in the top 5. Billy McScrublord's pretty high up there. Like I don't actually know Billy's McScrublord's first name, even though I shot a match with him. I should remember that, but I don't. But C-Class legend, Camden Lee, RO extraordinaire. He ROs like 20 matches a year, but he actually is no longer C-Class, but he is still C-Class legend. But he won B-Class. Actually, he would have won A-Class too, but he won B-Class at the Cornhusker Classic. Was that the name of the match?
Yeah. Yep,
he was third in open
Classic,
overall.
And I think he was third open as well,
I've given
right?
that, like, he had sent me like videos privately earlier in the year, and I give him like so much crap about his videos. Like, dude, have you ever dry fired in your life? And because his videos look like he'd get up to a position and be searching for his dot for like 3 seconds. I'm like, dude, like you cannot do that. Like you cannot be wasting time looking for a dot like that. And he started dry firing. At least he said. I don't know how much he was, but he started dry firing, and like it paid off. Like it was a much improved match performance over what he had before. He also like he listens to the podcast religiously, so like there's like that's at least worth the 5 to 10% bump in his match performance. And he has one of our Hit Factor hats, like so that's gonna help.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, he was wearing the Hit Factor hat.
He was wearing it at the match.
Yeah, easily.
So that was probably another like 5%.
I think, and then he's on the Discord, pretty consistently. So like, there's another 5 or 10%. Like, we could easily talk in. He got close,
I'm shocked he didn't win overall.
Give him time, like a few more matches, and I think he'll be there. But I don't know, like if they're like, I don't know how you can give a bigger endorsement of the podcast and the Discord and all that, like, than like his performance. So like people should be paying attention. Like it's clearly going to do a lot for their match performance.
Yeah. He was C class when he started
he wasn't
listening.
even
Now he's
winning
taking
C-class
third
all the time.
overall to level 2. Just saying.
It is a very impressive increase in performance.
That brings up a good topic, though. Have you guys noticed, like, a lot of newer people obviously get started in CO these days? Have you noticed how fast people are getting good nowadays? Like, you're talking like a year and a half in, and guys are like highly
I mean, there's more
competitive at,
information out
state
there than
matches
there
with
ever
good
has been
shooters
in the
there.
past as far as like training info. There's more instructors, there's more people teaching stuff. And so like that learning curve, like when I got in it, like there was very little material out there, and it was mostly like you go on the range and you figure it out yourself. And you hope that you're doing what's right. And like that is not the case for the newer shooters coming out now.
No, and I do think high cap and a dot probably helps those guys a lot as far as on the learning curve, because it does make high cap makes figuring the game out a lot easier than starting with a low cap division. And the dot does, if you pay attention to what the dot tells you, it'll teach you to shoot and learn
target focus from day one, right? Like
just
for sure.
Interesting observation.
All right, Jeff, you have questions for us.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's just dive in. All right, so I'm just going to start with our oldest question and move up because we got some old ones. Okay,
I mean,
this
like
one's
if it's not
from. Do we want to say who
sure.
they're from, or just answer them?
Yeah,
no, I don't think any of them are incriminating. This one's from old Billy, Billy McScrublord. What's your threshold for bad weather, environmental conditions when deciding whether to train or shoot a match? For example, I live in Washington and it rains a lot, so I just have to deal with it. Not a lot of snow, but I stop shooting when it gets down to 35-ish.
I'll go first. I will say that depends a little bit. Like, into the shooting season, winter starts getting here. I'm not really interested in going outside in 30-degree weather to shoot a match. Late winter, and it gets up to 30 or 40 degrees, and I've been in the house for 2 months, like, I'm ready to go shoot a match. I don't care that it's cold. As far as rain and stuff, if it's like a light rain or looks like there might be a little sprinkling, I would still go out and train. But if it's going to be like a heavy downpour where you can't get anything productive done, I'm going to either go to the indoor range or just go home and dry fire.
For me, training-wise,
Jeremy?
I can be a little bit picky because I can kind of look at the week's forecast or the next 10-day forecast, and I can kind of just pick my days based on that. Like these look like the best days. And so like if it's not like right before a big match and like it's a really windy, which for me really windy is if it's getting over like 25 or 30 sustained, then there's just so much dirt in the air that it's just not fun. If it's under 20, then I'll go shoot. Rain is not much of a factor for me where I live. Like it's just like if it's gonna rain that day, like usually it's only for like a thunderstorm blows up for like a certain time of the day, but it's usually not raining all day, so I can either go out before or after the rain if I have to. And then wintertime, I don't shoot a lot outdoors during wintertime. Whenever like early spring and I'm needing to train, like I try to find parts of the day that are over 45. Like when it gets too much under 45, like then you're having to just be bundled up, putting on gloves kind of in between strings and stuff like that, just to keep your hands warm. Like if your hands are like numb, cold, it's kind of pointless to try to train because you can't do a whole lot with it. So you could say that I'm a bit of a fair weather guy, but my situation is unique in that I work from home and my schedule is 100. I can change my schedule to fit whatever I need. Like somebody like Jeff, like he has set days of the week that if he's going to train that week, he has to go then. and so it's a little harder for somebody like Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will add one more thing on the weather too, though. So if like my forecast for a local match says it's going to rain, like I'm still going because that is something that you will potentially have to deal with at a major. So even if there's going to be some rain or something, I'm still going to that match. Like I'll pack a rain jacket.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting question because he's talking about cold and rainy, which is not weather that I have to deal with a lot here. Usually, environmental factors are a little more similar to Jeremy, but um, you know, when the winter, like I don't really shoot in the winter, and so when it starts warming up, that's when I'm coming out of off season. Usually around the end of March is usually when it is, beginning of April. So, I mean, I have to deal with cold just a little bit here and there at the beginning and maybe very end of the season, but other than that, not much. And I might tough it out on during those times. Like if I have a match coming up and I have to go shoot, I haven't shot all winter. I've got a major coming up. Okay, I'll go. I need to go shoot at least once or twice. That kind of deal. I'll tough it to go shoot in the cold. But for the most part, the season is nice weather. But yeah, if it's raining, like I don't have bags, so I'm not gonna go out and just like make a bunch of soggy targets and still not to get to shoot. Um, Now, if I know rain is coming, I'll still go to the range because the weather's unpredictable and I'll get there and maybe it blows over and doesn't even rain. So I don't necessarily depend on the forecast. Um, I play it like almost up to the hour. I'm at work. It's 5 o'clock. Is it raining? Okay, it's not raining. I'm going to the range. It doesn't really matter like how cloudy it is or anything like that. So yeah, I'll go shoot as long as it's not pouring. If it's sprinkling, I'll shoot. If it's raining a little bit, I'll shoot. But if it's going to destroy my targets, I'm not shooting. And the other factor that I deal with here, is, like Jeremy, I'm sure, is heat. And I know a lot of people are not going to go shoot in the heat. But, I mean, if it's 100 degrees, I'm going to shoot. I won't let that stop me. So that's probably what I deal with more here than rain or cold. It's just going to be like
yeah. I mean, like we've had a really hot,
fucking hot
spring and summer here in Texas,
so, yeah,
where I'm at in the Panhandle, and so yeah, like when I was training for those, like for nationals and stuff like that, it was it's 105, so you still got to get out and suck it up. Some days, if you can, you might go out earlier and where it's only 90, 95. And like, it's just, once it hits like 105, like that kind of heat is pretty oppressive. And I know the guys from Phoenix are kind of laughing at 105 because they live in 115 and 120. But it's pretty oppressive when it gets over like 105. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know what, like you can suck it up, and sweating a little bit's not going to kill you if you drink water.
Yeah, and it's really like the heat is really only bad to me anyway when I first get out there, because I work in an office, and so like you step out of the office, step outside, and it's like, dear God, I'm gonna die. But then like you're out there for a while, you start sweating, your body starts getting adapted, and I can usually get a good training session. And even if I'm covered in sweat, I mean that's just part of it. But
as much as I hate the heat, I can live with it. What gets annoying is when it's super humid also. It's like you're sweating, but you like can't even keep your hands dry. Like you put, wipe them off with a towel, put Pro Grip on, and like by the time you dry,
luckily
done,
I don't have. I virtually never have to deal with that. I mean, unless it rained like that morning. Otherwise, I don't have to deal with that. But yeah, I mean that would be tough. I'll say like sometimes I will pick. Like I don't do this a lot, but sometimes I will pick
humid here.
Like the worst part of the day to go practice, just from a like I'd want to train in bad conditions a little bit. I don't want to do that all the time, quite frankly, but sometimes I will choose to go out when it's super hot, or even like when it's blowing 30 miles an hour. Like I'm still going to go out and shoot and get some training in. and just trying to deal with shooting well when the elements are bad.
I do the same thing. Like training on a weekend or something, I don't try to go out at like 8 a.m. to beat the weather. Like I go out at a warmer part of the day because that's how it's going to be at matches. Like living in the Midwest like this, most of the majors I shoot are going to be hot and miserable.
Yeah.
And it's going to be way worse if you're not used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just to like overall answer the question, like try to go shoot in some weather that you don't want to shoot in, because actually it was Matt Hopkins. He said this one year we were at a match and it was really cold. You know, it was like 35 degrees. It was raining. I think there was some snow here and there, and like everybody was complaining about, man, I'm just not shooting good. You know, he's like, well, you should go shoot in the cold sometimes. Like, you shoot in the cold, maybe you'll shoot better in the cold. It's like, hey. So now I try not to be a bitch, and if it's cold, I go ahead and go shoot.
Well, basically, yeah. As long as you can be productive and there's value in the time you're doing it, and it's time well spent.
There you go. Okay, next question. There's a little bit of front part of this question, but the actual meat of the question is, what are your thoughts on having classifiers at major matches other than nationals?
Personally, I would rather not see them at like level 2s and level 3s.
I don't really
like. I would rather see more originality at those matches than that. That's just like my kind of. I haven't like thought deeply about that, but like that's kind of my initial reaction. I would rather they not be there.
Yeah, I don't really care to see them either, just because if you've shot very long, you've probably shot a lot of the classifiers, and some of them are so old that they're just not all that interesting. Probably weren't interesting when they were new. So I don't see that it brings any value to the match other than takes away a stage that could be original.
Yeah, same. I don't necessarily think they're a great idea at matches other than new ones at nationals. Yeah, that's about it.
Next question.
Good. Anything else on that one? Okay. In y'all's opinions, what makes a stage challenging to M's and GMs? What have you come across that has stood out to you in terms of stage setup?
All right, let's hear it.
Anybody want to go first? I'll go first. Okay, so for me, like I'm usually focused on shooting a pace, I guess. I wanna go with speed. So shots that slow me down and make me feel like I'm taking too much time. So obviously, like a really hard shot's really hard for anybody, but in my mind, that is one thing that I really feels like slow me down. Like, 15-yard, 20-yard zebra, something like that. Really difficult for me mentally. It's difficult mentally to shoot that target and not feel like I'm doing something wrong. Also, something that really throws me off and makes me drop a lot of points. This could just be specific to me, but is like positions where I'm shooting not in a normal stance. So like a lean, a squat, anything like that, where it's just like I'm probably going to drop more points than I should because there's this one little factor that's throwing me off. Those things. So it's just like anything that you can add to the shot that's kind of going to distract me mentally from what's going on is difficult for me.
I would say typically the stuff that can make it more of a challenge is without making it a challenge without making it dumb, is the type of stuff, instead of having like 4 targets in an array that are all at the same distance and height, is when there's some variation there. So especially when there's something that you want to shoot really fast and then you instantly need to transfer or transition to a target that's going to take more time. So that's the kind of stuff that those targets themselves are not hard to shoot, but that is some separation room is how fast you transition that gun to a harder target, or especially whenever, let's say like you have a 15-yard mini popper and two wide open 5-yard burner targets. That's the kind of stuff that can add challenge, but none of those shots themselves are ungodly difficult. And then also making sure that the transitions aren't all like 1 foot apart. Like, it doesn't mean every single target needs to be a 180-degree transition, but when there's more room to separate the field and that stuff. And those are the harder skills to be better at. When a lot of stuff requires you to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down.
I'm gonna be I don't know if this is a grumpy grandpa answer, but like I don't really like the question because I don't like the sense that, oh, I'm gonna build a stage that's really gonna get or really challenge these. I'm gonna make these GMs slow down. I'm gonna make these guys be slower. And I'm gonna make them mess up. I don't like if you want to challenge a GM, like GMs, like literally El Prez will challenge GMs because they're going to try to go as fast as they possibly can on El Prez, trying to do it in under 4 seconds, right? Like they will be challenged by like shooters are going to challenge themselves. Luckily with our sport, it's points divided by time. So like shooters are always going to challenge themselves no matter what it is. And the GMs are going to be challenged by other GMs and the pace that other GMs shoot. So I don't love that question because, like, if you're like, well, what's going to challenge a GM? Well, a 40-yard mini popper is going to challenge GMs and Master Cloud. Like, they're going to be challenged, like, to hit, like that's going to be tough for them to hit, like, consistent. Like, I can put an array of 8 mini poppers out there. That's going to really challenge these GMs. Well, yeah, it challenges they're going to struggle. Like it's going to be hard for them, but like it's going to destroy the B and C class shooters. Like they're going to be screwed. So to me, it's more of like what makes an interesting stage for a GM and an M class shooter, because those guys are like the guys that are good. Like they're going to be able to pull off anything that's, if you have any sort of reasonable amount of shooting, like, it's not necessarily a challenge for them. It's what's interesting for them. So like interesting is setting up some sort of mover sequence, which like, and like, I think while our national matches have kind of moved a little bit towards making the target on the swinger hard, like, and trying to make that like the year that they had like a zebra on a single pass swinger, right? And so like trying to do that to make it interesting. Well, I would rather see something where you have like just a moving target that like basically is only hidden when it's before it's activated, and then it's wide open, but you have other targets to engage in the meantime. And it's matter, okay, how many targets am I going to try to engage and where am I going to try to engage it type thing. And it's a pure decision from that point of what do you think you can do ahead of time, and then can you pull that off during the actual stage. So I would like to see that question posed more of what is interesting to those guys and what makes an interesting stage. And Jared's right in the like speed changes, like slow to fast and fast to slow, like that's interesting. That's much more interesting than just all 20-yard targets or all 5-yard targets. Having those speed changes within a position or within a stage makes those stages more interesting.
I do like what you're saying about reworking the question, because you basically, by reworking the question, you're answering kind of what I was getting at, and I didn't think of it from that standpoint, is that none of those shots individually should be something that the average guy can't hit with no time limit. And you start talking like a 40-yard mini popper, if you put 10 of them out there, I'm not going to go 10 for 10. Like, I'm sure somebody out there
you put 3 of them out there,
like,
and most top GMs are like, man, difficult. I hope I've got a few extras in the gun to, like, they're not going to plan on going 3 for 3 on 40-yard mini poppers.
No, but, another great example of what you're talking about, the swinger. So, putting partials on the swinger can make the swinger exceptionally difficult to just shoot in general. But if you take an open swinger and make it where it's only available when it's up and it's blocked both times, you can't trap it down, that makes it a much more difficult swinger to take in one pass. But every shooter on that stage can get 2 hits on that swinger in a reasonable time.
I like it. Good answer.
And like Jeremy was saying, if it's going to be a good stage, if it's going to be an interesting stage for a GM, it's going to be an interesting stage for all shooters. So thinking of it from like the level of the shooter, I don't think is a great wording. I think you're absolutely correct.
Next question,
Jeremy.
There you go. Got a couple different types of answers there. Hold on. We already answered this one. I mean, it's a different question, but you basically just answered it. So, let's see. Okay, how often do you practice scenarios like table starts, reloading from a table, prop manipulation, seated starts, prone shooting, etc.? It seems pointless to dedicate serious time resources to something that doesn't seem to show up often or affect your stage time by that much.
Okay, I'll go first. I don't think I've ever practiced prone shooting. At the end of the day, shooting is shooting, so we'll have sights pull the trigger back. It's not something you're going to see a ton. As far as like table starts and table loads and stuff, I'm sure I've probably done them in live fire at some point in time, but that's something that I'll work occasionally in dry fire because it is something you see enough that you need to be comfortable doing it. But even then, it's something I'll probably do if I see it's something I'm going to see at the match. So it's kind of like weekend shooting. I'm not generally going to train weekend shooting, but if I flip through the Area 3 matchbook and see a weekend stage, like I'm going to put some time in on the weekend to make sure I'm comfortable. And same thing with seated starts. Like that's stuff that can be worked out in dry fire as far as the motions of it. Because once you're up with the gun in your hand, the shooting's the same as what you're always doing.
Yeah, for me, like without going into like these like all the specific stuff, I will, like if I have a match coming up and they announce the match, like usually a couple weeks out, I'll go through and look at it and see if there's 4 unloaded starts. Okay, I'm gonna practice some unloaded starts between now and the match. So stuff like that. Yeah, it's to me it's more of as it's coming up in a match, I will practice it. I don't put a ton of dedication towards that stuff. Prone, as we've talked about before, I don't go prone if like I haven't seen a port that I have to go prone on. And so I fold myself up like Gumby and I bend over and I'll shoot with the gun upside down. I don't care. I'm not going prone. Strong hand weekend. I actually,
if there's any chiropractors that would like to help Jeremy out,
I don't know if it's a chiropractor or
I'm sure
like,
he'd be up for that.
I don't know, like yoga. I don't know. Probably need something, but yeah, I don't go prone. And so far it hasn't. I don't feel like I have been at a competitive disadvantage from how I approach low ports. Strong hand weekend are things that I train on a fairly consistent basis. Not huge amounts, but I do train those on just a consistent basis because I kind of enjoy doing one-handed shooting and one-handed manipulations. So I do those.
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of feel like he answered the question within the question. It seems pointless to spend times on these things when you don't see them very often, and they usually don't make up a ton of percentage, even on the stage that they are in. Like I can think of a couple stages. They're like one of those things had a large effect on the hit factor, but for the most part, no. I just want to make sure that I can sit down and stand up quickly, and I can lay down quickly. So basically just make sure I'm mobile. That's all I really care about. There's nothing special about standing up from a chair. And I mean, there's a little bit special about going prone, but again, how often do you see it? Jeremy never does it. So no, I don't practice it. I don't know that I've ever practiced going prone. And I've never shot a stage where I'm like, man, I wish I would have done more prone shooting, because usually everybody sucks about the same. As far as all like the tables and reloads from tables and stuff, I just make sure that my gun manipulations are on point. I'm not necessarily practicing from a table or anything like that, but make sure that like my fine motor skills, like I can put the mag in the gun and rack the gun.
I will say, like,
sure
for table starts, like I do think there's some different ways to approach like how you pick the gun up on a table start, like especially if the gun's loaded or unloaded. And so like that's worth spending some time figuring out like what works, like how you want to pick it up. Like, are you using the left hand to scoop the gun? Like, so if you're new to the sport and you don't know how you want to do that, then you should spend some time in dry fire figuring out like what is the most efficient way for you that you can feel like you can get a consistent grip. So they're like for table starts and stuff like that, they're like at least do it enough that you have a technique that you feel confident in.
Yeah, and a big chunk of that is what's more important there is that you're comfortable doing it when you see it. But, I mean, you don't have to train it much.
All right, next question.
Being comfortable.
Oh yeah, what Jeremy said 100%. Like, you don't have to practice them, but know what you're gonna do. Basically, I like it. Good answer. Okay, next question. Okay, why do people call to get rid of existing divisions for the fear they are diluting the sport, but want to create new divisions that will actually dilute the current divisions? Why the extreme hate for revolver at matches? Does the one or two people shooting it make the match go that much slower? Yeah, it does.
I would say the bigger thing is, like, to all of us anyways, this is a competition. It's about competing. We got to compete against as many people as possible. And there's just so many divisions now. Like, if you go to an award ceremony, it takes like an hour to go through all the divisions and categories and everything. At the end of the day, a lot of divisions are very underrepresented. So I think we need to be very careful about deciding to add divisions. And I think that sometimes the divisions really aren't shot anymore. So why do they exist? Like limited 10. I mean,
and they only shoot at nationals really because it's another national title to add to your collection. My response to this, I don't mean to cut you off, Jared, if you weren't done. My response to this is kind of,
please go ahead.
I feel like maybe my generation kind of like as a kid, like I was on the tail end of like participation trophies. And there's this sense of if everybody's special, then nobody's special. Like, and that's something our society has lost. Like, in that we have to try to make, like, we're given Super Bowl. Like, I have friends that have kids, and like they win like a little league t-ball thing, and they're getting like these rings that look like Super Bowl rings, right? Like, and it's like, I don't mean to be a fuddy-duddy, but like, come on, like it's t-ball. Like, give them like the super cheap little trophy that, like, and so like I feel like that's where we're at with our division and our sport a little bit. Like, whenever you're awarding national championships to everyone, like then the ones that do actually matter, those have been lessened. Like, so whoever's winning, like Carry Optics is probably going to be very well attended this year. Like, whoever wins Carry Optics Nationals, well, guess what? That national title is the same as the guy winning L10. And I'm not picking on Mason, but there were Mason was competing against a very, very small field there to win that, whereas the guy winning Carry Optics is competing against a very big, deep field, and like, so at some point, like we're cheapening the guys who are winning those national titles that mean a lot, and that's, to me, that's a bit of a shame.
Jeff,
I mean, the more divisions you have, it just dilutes the sport. Like they're saying, there's divisions that are less populated. They don't hold as much weight. you spread people out, and now we create a new division. Everybody flocks to it. So now we have this way overpopulated division, and all the other divisions are suffering. I think the best approach is to not do either, or would have been to not do either, to add or remove divisions. But I mean, people get upset about it because people have feelings about it. I don't really know another way to answer that. But I do think we could combine some divisions. Like, I don't really want to keep anybody from shooting what they like to shoot right now. Like, I don't want to kill somebody's division, but we could combine like 3 divisions and everybody still be able to shoot exactly what they shoot now, and just call it one division. Like, I'd be all for something like that. And I don't really want to kill Revolver. I think it's classic, but I don't really. It's a weird one, but.
The other one thing that I would add to it is I am
100%
in favor of keeping divisions around for level 1 exceptions, right? Or even if there were more divisions for level 1s, like I don't want to open up this can of worms, but like the single action carry optics division that's the hot button topic right now. Like, if they made that and said we're allowing this at level 1s, like, okay. Like, that's what if they had done that with carry optics when they first started carry optics, that would have at least given them like some decent data to vet out the division and what should this division look like, before now we're 5 years into it and we're kind of stuck with a division that's kind of sucky. Like I don't think anybody shooting carry optics now thinks that the rules are what they should have been when they first set it up. At least I don't talk to too many people. So like PCC, like, keep that as a level 1 exception. Like, if people want to come out and shoot their PCCs, let them come out for that. Outside of level 1s, they're standalone matches. If we're gonna kill Revolver, okay, there's still guys that, every once in a while they want to shoot that at their local match. Let them come out and shoot at their local match. Like, that's fine. I'm all for making the level 1s as accessible to as many people as they want to.
Yeah, but level 1s already are. Like, you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, revolvers are production
shoot
legal
your revolver
guns.
in like production. I think you can already shoot your.
Yeah,
you can shoot your single action CO gun and open. Like, on a level 1 match, I don't think it really matters. The argument people will make is it's not competitive. But if you're choosing to use that equipment, and you're the only one shooting the division, then what does it matter if it's not competitive, if there's no one to shoot against?
Yeah, I think the thing that people don't want to hear is that they honestly need to hear is it's not that what you're shooting isn't competitive. It's that you're not competitive.
Yeah.
Just show up and shoot.
Could happen.
Yeah. They need to be told.
I mean, someone that's really good with a revolver is probably going to be quite competitive with the production guys in their area. There's going to be some times where they give up a lot because of the way the loads work out or something. But
I mean, Poji's going to be
probably load his revolver
around 80% of, like, if production and revolver nationals are the same match, he's going to be around 80% of the match winner. Yeah.
Which means he would still be quite competitive, probably in his local matches with it.
Next question.
All right. Let's do one more. Okay. I'm going to skip a couple and get to this one. What does your current dry fire space look like? How far are the targets? What size? What would be a better setup for you? What is not amenable to a common dry fire space? Amenable? I don't know that word. To dry fire space. 10 yards run. 10-yard runs, for example.
All right, so my dry fire space is, so my house is a split entry. So, half of my bottom level is a garage, the other half's a room. And it has a bathroom in one corner of it. Otherwise, I have that entire room to work with. So it's probably I don't know, 15 or 20 feet wide by like 30 feet long, probably. And around the outside walls, around the outside of the house walls, it has a ledge at about 3 foot from the foundation. So I commonly use that to place targets. It works out to a fairly good level. Easy to move stuff around, easy to put a target up there to make a no shoot or something along those lines. And then I have a variety of different dry fire targets. So I have stuff with hardcover on it. I have IPSC targets, USPSA targets. I have 6 size and 3rd size and half size, as well as some of the fake poppers and plates and stuff. And I'll often move stuff around. And more importantly, I'll leave a bunch of targets up that I'm also like transitioning by and just ignoring. But what I wouldn't want to work with in my dry fire space is like no room to do any movement. Like you don't need 30 yards of movement, but you need enough space to actually move a little bit. That's not just like one step. Like I wouldn't want to dry fire in my reloading room here. I have 10 feet from wall to wall or whatever.
Do you use any props or anything?
I have a table and a chair, and I have a barricade that I've made out of just a target stand with a couple of targets on it, but I've also cut out the A zone on those targets to use them as ports.
Nice.
My dry fire, I dry fire in my shop, which is filled with tools and other stuff. So I don't have like just a dedicated dry fire space. And so I have kind of a small space where I can move around. I can kind of put targets anywhere on the wall, but honestly, like my targets are kind of like they're taped to the wall, and they mostly stay where they're at. I'll move some around every once in a while. For the most part, I just pick different orders to engage the targets. I wish I had a little bit more room for movement. Like I can make a probably like 3 quick steps, but I don't really have much room to like really get up to very much speed at all, moving forward or backwards. I don't have much room to move forward or backwards. Some kinda, and then I have a little bit of room to move sideways. It's basically enough room that you get a load done in that space that I have to move, and not much more. So I would like to have more than that. I just don't have aside from trying to take over my garage, and doing it there, which then you're moving cars out and stuff like that. I'm kind of, to me, a garage is for cars to go in, and I try to make sure that we can still put cars in the garage, and I don't fill that space up with other stuff. So mine is fairly simple from that standpoint. I think ideally, like you see, like what Casey Reid has set up when he's making his online coaching deal. Like he's got a room that has like like the whole floor is covered in rubber pads, right? And it's basically like a room that's dedicated to dry fire, and it looks like it's at least 20 feet by 20 feet or something like that. And those measurements could be wrong, but something like that would be nice. But I don't have that.
Yeah, so I just moved, so my dry fire now is different than I moved about a little over a year ago. But my dry fire now is different than it has been all the way up until now. So in the past, it was a room that was probably about 20 feet by 10 feet, maybe 12 feet. So basically, I could just run back and forth long ways, doing stuff that way. And there was like a couch in there and a gun safe and some bicycles. So I mean, it was a little cramped in there, but I was able to get some good training done in there. And I've always just used like pretty small dry fire targets up until I moved here, where I've used some larger ones, lay them on the ground or set them up on a shelf to practice some softer exits or something like that. But when I moved here, I took over the garage. That was that is my dry fire area. So, there's some shelves on the walls, so it's a little smaller, but it's probably somewhere around 20 by 20, maybe 25 by 25, something like that. It's a pretty big space. I've got all my workout stuff out there as well, but I have lots of room to move around. And I still pretty much use majority of like the smaller dry fire targets. I don't know. I guess I do have a pretty good mix here. At the last house, I had really small ones, but here I've got a pretty good mix. Full size, 3rd scale, 6th scale, spread out, just all over, all different heights, all different distances. Very random. I try to set things up very random. Like I don't like putting things like anything at the same height. I don't know. It's just something I like to do. At my last house, I had I had a space on the wall that I just called it my transition matrix, and I basically stood there and I took pasters and I tried to place them as randomly as possible. Like I tried to make a patch of pasters on the wall that was probably like 3 foot by 3 foot, and they were probably all 5 inches, 6 inches apart. And I tried to make it where there was no pattern, no distinguishable pattern in the pasters. It's really difficult, actually. But that was something that I used a lot. And so I have something similar to that here. I've come up with some other transition type drills. I use a lot of pasters for like transition type drills. So I'll just use a single paster. I do have a barrier that I created from just like a target stand piece of cardboard. I'll move that around, put fault lines down, to come in and stop at. And it's set just high enough to where I can squat and shoot underneath it. So I'll do that sometimes. And then my other prop that I use it's a concrete floor in there. So when I want to practice a whole bunch of reloads, I have a box and it has an old sleeping bag in it. And I'll practice reloads. If I'm going to do like three pouches back in a row, I'll practice over the box and work around the box. I have a couple of drills I've come up with to use that to get a lot of different maneuvers in. So I think that's pretty much it. I've got some tape on the ground because it's concrete floor. I've got tape boxes for shooting positions. I have a taped out agility ladder.
You haven't built any swingers yet?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it all.
You need to get to Jay's level.
No,
where you can build like full on stages in your garage.
I know, I do. If I had the stall mats to cover my garage floor, that would be legit.
I do also have a shooting box. Until you said that, I forgot. I built one out of PVC just used for dry fire.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's everything. I do need a swinger though, real bad. Maybe not like a full size like stage style swinger like Jay has, but
one of those dry fire swingers would be
something
I need to get one of those sometime. Those would be pretty cool. Yeah, I just haven't ever done.
Yeah, I've been saying that too.
One of those would be pretty neat. The dry fire, I mean, that's like that. Like everybody's different. Like they're set. Like there's lots of people that like they dry fire and they don't even use dry fire targets. They just use like outlets. Just random marks that they have like in pictures on their house or something like that. Like it's just anything that they can pick as a like that is an aiming point, then they'll just use that for dry fire. And I think there's actually some good validity to doing it like that. And like everybody does a little bit different. So try to be creative, use what space you have available to you, and find ways to work within it. So.
Yeah, and also don't forget when it comes to dry fire, you can do dry fire on the range while you're live fire training as well, if you want to work something specific without using ammo.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used plenty of light switches and even like like a divider on like a garage door or like a piece of trim. Like it's not a good transition point like vertically because it's long, but horizontally, just like getting where you can stop on it, that works as well. So just get creative.
Yeah,
or
I use
actually
the
buy
ones
some
from
dry
the
fire
pro shop,
targets. They're
the
pretty cheap.
Bensager Pro Shop. And there's lots of different options out there for those nowadays.
Yeah. I don't think I bought any
Yeah,
for
I
my
mean that
first
they
2
weren't
years.
available when I was
I just
like
cut them
first
out of
5 or 6
cardboard.
years I was in it, and so yeah, I just cut them out. They were kind of I mean the ones I cut out were like weird shape, like they were like it's like I think this kind of looks like a turtle target, and it's just kind of a weird random amoeba shaped target, right? And it was fine. It was good enough.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, very non-symmetrical.
For the grand scheme of things, though, and what everything costs these days, like no more than dry fire
I mean,
targets cost. It's worth adding.
I would definitely like if I was starting new again now, I would buy the dry fire targets. Like it's just so much easier, like than trying to cut them out of cardboard. And they're scaled.
Yeah.
Like I that's the nice thing about the dry fire targets is they are scaled, so you can know, okay, this is a third scale target. So if I have it at 10 feet, well, that's simulating a 10-yard target, and so you can know that by knowing what scale those targets are at, kind of what you're simulating, which is kind of good, kind of nice, I think sometimes.
Is it weird that
I don't think that's necessarily weird.
Done that,
but like you were talking about how you always dry fire with like pretty small targets. I tend to do the same as well with some pretty small targets. And so then like I sometimes like did the math on that. It's like I'm like simulating trying to hit like literally like 50 or 60-yard targets, like what is simulated. But the problem is that like if you're doing that and you're trying to run some sort of par, like decreasing par time, then at that point like you're getting to where you're accepting visually just hits on brown, because the target's so small that you can't really stabilize in the A zone, and so you're getting used to visualizing. I mean, just visually, anywhere on target is good enough. Rather than being precise on finding the middle of it. So like, I do think at some point, like making them so small that they're so hard, like you can maybe kind of get in your head a little bit that way. Like I have some of mine that are on the wall. Like I've taken a black Sharpie around the A zone, because that's the other nice thing about the dry fire targets, that like the A zones are marked and stuff, and the C zones and stuff too. But like I've taken like a Sharpie and just outlined the A zone. That way I have a visual confirmation there. Okay, I actually am aiming at the A zone. I don't have all the targets like that, but I have like one or two like that, just to kind of make sure that you know where the A zone's at, and are you being too sloppy or too accurate even. Could you be faster?
Yeah, that reminds me of something Ben posted the other day about like putting marks on the target, right?
Yeah.
And that can be something else you can do with your dry fire targets. If you see you have a hard time looking to a specific spot, like mark a couple targets with a paster or something. That way it's a reference point. You shouldn't do it all the time, but it's a good reference point for where you're aiming, where you need to aim, where you need to look, getting your eyes to the right spot. All
good stuff. All right, boys, that's been a good chat. We got through a bunch of questions, which is good. We probably still have a bunch of other questions. But if anybody has any questions, send them to us. If you're on the Discord, we have a chat just for that. Otherwise, send it to us, email it to us, get us on Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that. We respond much better to the Discord stuff, but we will try to make sure we respond to anything on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah. So links to everything will be in the description, as far as the media pages. Also a link to how to get into the Discord. Also, today's episode, as we mentioned before, was sponsored by Shooters Connection. So be sure you guys hit their link. It'll be in the description. Shooters Connection, they sponsor a lot of matches for us. So be sure to support them. Their Shooters Connection is run by competitive shooters. and they're shipping stuff out fast, and they're supporting not just matches, but they're supporting us. They're supporting the podcast, which is another part of this sport and this industry. So support them, support us. Hit the link. Appreciate it. Anything else, fellas?
Weller Antique tonight. It's pretty good. Oh, nice.
Penelope, 4 grain.
Buffalo Sweat Vanilla Bean Stout. Or Vanilla Cream Stout, sorry.
Oh, nice. I think I've had that one.
I really like it.
Awesome.
It's a brewery out of like Wichita, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Peace.
Peace.
Oh, stop recording, damn it.